I'm Brandon, and welcome back to Apollo City Comics, your anything and everything of comic book podcast. You will notice there was not an additional Brandon on this episode, and that is due to the guy's power just being out, and it's an unfortunate time. So to make up for that loss, we actually have a packed house tonight, and probably one of the biggest episodes we've had in a very long time. Biggest cast probably since probably like our birthday episode back in October. And guess what? I want to say this is my first solo episode. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see how we'll roll with this. And we're talking to a group of amazing gentlemen on an amazing book. So snuggle up and get ready with that cup of coffee that you probably got from Coffee and a Comic over at coffeeandacomic.com, where you get your books bagged and boarded with coffee and some little stickers tossed in there. And
that sounds awesome.
Sounds fucking awesome. I don't see why everyone isn't buying from Frank over there. Dude, bagging and boarding is a bitch. I don't even have time to organize and put away my comics, and they just stack up for months and months. So having them bagged and boarded while they stack up is probably the greatest gift anybody can ever give you. Like if any president ran or congressperson or anyone and they said that they're going to put bags and boards with comics, dude, got my vote. Got my vote.
Chicken in every pot, a bag and board on every comic. Fuck,
dude,
yes.
That's my vote. That's you will win. That's going to be a landslide.
I'll vote twice for that
election. Yeah, come on.
I think they need to start bagging and boarding some of the older Congress people.
Yeah, that's honestly true.
Possibly in an airtight bag.
Well, then let's just jump right into this. We have Casey Allen, James Lyons, and Christian Del Mato. Did I say your last name right? I just went straight for the Mexican route.
I really liked it.
Okay, cool.
De Matteo.
Matteo, there you go.
You, sir, are from Texas.
Yeah, dude, straight up. Yeah, El Paso. Like, that's where that came from, and instinctively. You guys, well, James and Christian, you guys were in Fugitive Poems, and you guys just putting out, kickstarting at the moment. 2 weeks left, just about. You're doing Containment Breach, Volume 3 of Clouds and Ether. And you are all contributors to this. And Casey, if you guys remember our dope episode with Dan Price where we covered Bigfoot Knows Karate, that's right. You could see some Bigfoot Knows Karate somewhere around here on the backboard.
I saw it in the background earlier.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know I can't navigate like that. There you go. You guys see it. But you guys know Casey from that and the Comic Jam, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well. But James and Christian, hello, gentlemen. I just want to get a quick, introduction from you guys, and just tell me about Fugitive Poems. Like, where did that company come from, and how did this turn into anthologies?
That's actually a really interesting question for us, because we sort of bumbled our way into everything that we're doing. We
like
discovered
every comic creator almost in a sense. Yeah.
James got a copy of a script that I wrote. He drew a panel of it. It was the first panel anyone had ever drawn of an original idea of mine. I had been working with a friend, Michael Gracia, who's got a show called Get in Tune, and writing his storylines. And that was sort of my intro to comics. And then one day I had an idea, and I've written novels and screenplays and short stories, and I'd never written comics, which is weird because I'm a lifelong comic fan. But I had an idea, which was a comic, and I wrote it like in minutes. And I showed it to him, like, is this anything? And James got a copy of the script, and he drew this panel that had really struck him. And boy, did his drawing strike me. James is one of the most incredible artists I've ever seen. And his portfolio, if you go to Jamlines, if you search up Jamlines portfolio on Google, you'll find it, because I never remember the exact address, but you got to look at the breadth of his work. It's incredible. And he drew this, one of my main characters walking down the street with this red scarf trailing behind her, and the mannequins, exactly like I had written. The mannequins in the windows on 8th Avenue in Manhattan were watching her creepily as she passed. And I mean, the detail, it was beautiful. And we decided, well, you want to draw this comic? Yeah. We're going to do that. But then I started talking to people and finding out, well, you can't, how are two unknowns going to walk in a room and pitch it? You got to get some work out there. So we started putting out shorts, and then the pandemic hit. I don't know if you know about that. It was a personal experience of mine. the pandemic hit, and I was talking to Matt Queen on Twitter, who's a really great artist, and we were joking about something. I had thrown an idea at him, and he drew it in like minutes. And I said, "How quick do you think we could put an anthology out?" And I brought it to James, and we did it, and that was Quarantine Chronicles.
Nice.
It was Containment Breach Volume 1, Quarantine Chronicles. And
it has
we
such
did
a
it
nice ring to it too. You know what I mean? Like just the way that rolls off the tongue.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. The cover and the title came to James in a dream. And I get a phone call early in the morning. And I got it. I got the cover and I got the title. I'm like, okay, awesome. And I love them. I am so proud every time I write Containment Bridge. And I think of James every time that was his brainchild. So we did this like a zine.
Nice.
And there's articles in here, and this sort of rock and roll pinups and wild stuff. And it was popular. And so I ended up having a nightmare one night, not even kidding, about not having done volume 2 yet. It was about a year later. And I'm like, we wrote volume 1. Why the hell haven't we done it? And it was me putting it off. And I pictured the book, but instead of James's wonderful revelatory dream, mine, like me, was all filled with guilt and fear because I hadn't done it yet. But I proposed the concept to him, and that became Myth Reborn,
nice.
Our second volume. And this is a copy only I have, because the printer, this was their freak print. This is our Siamese twin edition.
Oh, nice.
Whoa, nice. Okay.
So I use this to show people so I don't recognize copy. But we were going to do this like a zine again. We got so many contributors. We ended up doing 160 pages of pure comics around the theme Myth Reborn. And then we decided to do it again. And we got so many contributors that I can't now remember if it was James or Mark. Mark Capitelli's our senior editor, who said, why turn away half of these people? We got some incredible people. Why turn away half of these great people? Why not do 2 volumes at once? And it almost fucking killed us.
Yeah, I bet. Definitely.
Yeah. And James is still in it. As I am the editor-in-chief. Mark is the senior editor. So from pitch to script to line art to but especially pitch and script. But I'm involved in the line art as well, and James gets really involved then in the inking and the coloring and the lettering, and we have milestones every step of the way, and you got to keep up on people. And now James is the book is all the art is in, and the book is just about built, but he has to do the second book now. And that's what he does. I don't even know. I got to tell you, I would put these books up against Marvel, DC, Image, Boom, IDW, anyone. The quality is unbelievable, and I lay all that at the feet of James. But that's how we started, and we started on a story named Finis. If you go to fugitivepoems.com, you can see a page about it, and that's where we're headed. But we wanted to get our name out there, and we also wanted to raise the banners we saw these other incredible indie artists out there.
Yeah,
and writers, and we wanted to raise their banners, and so we're trying to do all of that.
That's great. And that's kind of what Apollo's all about. The more you kind of recognize the indie community and the more you connect with them, you realize that we're all in this together and we're all just a giant support beam. And it's unlike, going to Baltimore Comic-Con, conventions, I would get my Tom King signatures, my all that to my sketches, stuff like that. But just connecting with indie creators for one of the first times, it opened my eyes to how different it is. It's 2 different worlds, and the word indie and mainstream means like Image and IDW, but like the true indie is everything that we're doing here, like in the underground aspect. And you guys bringing out so many
karate
creators.
and voodoo chop.
Yeah, dude, straight up, like it's what you guys are doing. This anthology is, publishing probably people for the first time as well. I don't know. Have you guys? What other publications do you both have under your belts aside from the anthologies?
We dived in with the anthologies.
Okay, cool.
James has had a lot of work out there, and I've had short stories in places, prose. But we really were of the fuck it, we'll do it ourselves school. And there's that whole problem that you can't get published till you're published. And we were seeing these incredible people out there, and we said, well, let's get them published. And sure enough, as soon as people have been in our books, they've gone on to other projects. We've got people that have gone on to Boom and Marvel and Image, and it's we had a person from DC and Marvel apply to be in Containment Breach 3 and 4.
Fuck yeah, that's great.
And we were like, fuck you. No.
I mean, that's the cool part too, is that some of those creators do recognize with the regular indie community, and you could tell there's a difference in them too. And James, where does a lot of your artistic aspect come from? Like, have you been drawing since you were a kid? Like, have you like what really influenced you as you continue this journey?
Well, you were asking what experience we have. I've done some work for books and stuff, doing some book illustrations, a couple of book covers, stuff like that. I have a weird kind of professional background. I've done a whole bunch of different stuff. I was actually way back when I graduated from Pratt, I had a degree in animation, and I tried to break into that field, but it's like it's a really small field, and there's a lot of people that want to be in it. So I did some stuff for small companies and promotional stuff. Never anything like Pixar movies or anything like that. But I really found doing sort of sterile corporate illustrations and stuff never really floated my boat. Christian and I are also full-time professors, so we do that for money as well. So this was always extra money. But I've worked on game design and like I said, book illustration and graphic design. So putting together books is something that I've done for a while. I used to assemble like coupon books and stuff back in the day. Really, kind of boring stuff, but paid the bills.
Yeah.
But I got into comics really with Christian, and I happen to have my portfolio out. So we're always talking about this one image that started Fugitive Poems, and this is it right here. This is the one that Christian was talking
wow.
about.
Dude,
So
that line work is great.
This is the first comic illustration I ever attempted to do.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
I love the heaviness on her hair right there, like how it really stands out with how heavy it got, and that detail in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a while ago now. Yeah, so this was the first one that I tried to do in comic style. Coming from illustrations, I would do one illustration and I would pour everything into it, and then I was done with it. And then I go on to something else. So it was a big switch over to get to sequential illustration, having to redo things again and again, and making sure that there's continuity in the books, and and also another thing that people, I think, starting out don't think about in comics is you have to draw everything. You gotta there's cause to draw everything in a comic book. Like I've drawn hundreds of things that I would have never thought of drawing, in the comics that we made. Not only are you making up fantastic stuff, out of the norm, but you're also drawing like garbage cans and Coke bottles and all kind of weird stuff out there, and it all has to hang together. Not all of that stands out on the page, but if you do it wrong, then it stands out, right? If someone, if you don't have the perspective right on something, it can ruin the panel, even though it's a background element.
Do you do traditional, or do you do a lot more digital work?
I do a mix. Most of the stuff I go pretty much to inks traditionally, and then I scan the inks, and I usually do digital coloring because it's a little bit faster for me. And if I don't like something, I kind of go off. I don't put a lot of planning into my colors, so if I go off and I make the colors too bright or something, it's really easy to change in digital, whereas if you do it traditionally, you're like, oh my god, why did I make that blue? And you can't hide it without screwing it up. But in digital, you can just quickly change the color scheme. So usually I do digital stuff, although for Containment Breach 2, our story was called Delphine. I did that in watercolors. But then went in and digitally played with the watercolors and made it much deeper and darker because it was a dark story.
Oh wow, nice.
It's actually incredible if you see the original colors versus they're more along the lines of the original colors, as opposed to where they get to and what he does digitally to darken them. It's incredible to see the original pages, a totally different flair to the piece.
Wow.
But this is good Lord, do I love this story.
That looks great.
So that was a dark story. Everything took place in dark rooms down in Louisiana, and a lot of high contrast stuff with the lights that you can see.
So, like, for both of you, this Containment Breach Volume 3 is very sci-fi based. Very, very sci-fi based. Were the other two volumes along that same track, or have you done different kind of themes for each volume?
When our dear friend and mentor in getting into the business of this, Doug Wood, introduced me to the Comic Jam, which Casey is the editor-in-chief of. I was so excited how the process of the Comic Jam worked, because it's how James and I work. James and I both love prompt-based creation. I love it for writing in particular. So the idea was that we were going to have an umbrella theme for every book. We never tell people what genre to write. You can write anything you want. Our next book is technically kind of dark, but there's some really funny pieces in it. We don't tell anybody what to write. Here's our umbrella theme. And then what we do is I have every team come up with a individual creative prompt, come up with a phrase, a concept, nothing too. We had somebody give us a paragraph once. That's too much. But we got it and we rocked it in volume 1. Like the Terrible Twos, or the Guardian of the Sacred Tree, or Celestial Weaponry, or the one I gave Leland Bjerg and Camilla Sims that pissed them off briefly. Then they killed it. Hammurabi's Coat. He emails me and he's like, "You mean code, right? That was a typo." And I'm like, "Nope." But what I do is I have everyone submit a prompt, and then I scramble them up. And we get and disperse them. And you have to write a story that fits under the umbrella theme and somehow includes in some way, up to you how much, that creative prompt that you got. And we play this game too, because I wouldn't want to miss out on it. I did a story in this book with Jay Sheik as well as with James. And Jay Sheik is a tremendous artist. Get Hush Ronan from Band of Bards. When is this coming out? Back Band of Bards Amongst the Stars. It's still on Kickstarter, I believe. Jay, the prompt I got for that comic was teens in space. And I write sci-fi, but not that kind. I don't write in space. Like I'll take place, but I don't write like any traditional kind of Star Trek-y stuff.
Yeah.
And that scared me. And I was nervous. And I said, nope, I got to play the game legitimately. This is what I got. And I was driving home one day and I got this image, and the page is now on our Kickstarter as the page from that story, the Yankovic Theorem, of these two teenagers floating in space. Like they're just in casual clothes. And what it is they open a doorway to a room, step through, and went through a portal, and they're like dying now, suffocating in space. And that it just went from there. And that's what happens to all our creatives, and I get a lot of, what the hell am I going to do with that? And then they come back with this awesome story. And this guarantees us these books are 1,000,000%, because I'm no good at math, 1,000,000% original. No one's pulling the story out of a desk drawer that they had for years, because it has to fit the umbrella theme and include the prompt. And as a result of that, the energy of these stories is high. It's high energy because they were written in that moment. They had, I think, usually 3 weeks to write the script.
Oh, wow.
And they had to put this together, and we get these awesome scripts. And then we're very available as editors. So no, send it to us. Don't judge it. Just send it when you got it, and then we're going to help you make it better. And that's not like a condescending statement, because I do the same thing. I'm great at editing, and then all the stuff that I told you needed to fix, someone's got to tell me to fix. And Dustin Luke Nelson and Mark Capitelli have been amazing editors for us. Jordan Patrick Finn was our editor on Volume 2 for Containment for Delphine. If you're looking for a wild indie comic, look up Jordan Patrick Finn and get Death Kanji. It's one of my favorite comics of 2021, I believe it was. And he was a great editor. But we do that as well for people. So that's the stories as a result are, this book Volume 3 turned out to be very sci-fi. We didn't know where it was going to go.
Nice. That's awesome. Kind of how we fluctuated with this the punk anthology we just made that'll be out soon. I just needed something punk, what punk meant to you. And didn't matter what genre, how you expressed it, but just that's how we took it, and that's how we kind of put it together. So that's cool on my behalf, saying that maybe I'm doing something right because you guys are kicking ass with all of this. And so, like, Casey, how did you become involved and meet, James and Christian and start this whole relationship and, enter your contribution to this anthology?
So I I run the Comic Jam, which is an online comics workshop. Every week we get artists and writers together. We get everybody votes on the theme, and then the writers do their part. They have a week to turn out a one-page, six-panel script. If you can write one page and get it done and then send it off to somebody and then they illustrate that page, you've made a comic. That's the level of that's the investment that you're having to do. It's not that big of a deal. You do the one page and then you decide like, oh, do I like this? Is this something I want to do? Some people, they get it and they're like, fuck this sucks. And then other people go like, oh my gosh, this is magic. This is what I want to do. So I luckily, got to meet Christian, and he joined the jam and immediately took to it like a duck to water. And then he introduced me to James. As the guy that was, ostensibly kind of has a big hand in the jam. At first, I was kind of reticent to try out for the anthology because I didn't want anybody to go like, well, we gotta add that guy, whatever, this dickhead. So I didn't want that, but also I was like, challenge me. And then I got the prompt, and holy shit, I was banging my head up against the wall for a little while to make it fit. I can't right now off the bat. I was trying to find the email that had the actual factual like prompt in it.
I got you.
And yeah, it was really like, it took me a while.
So you had actually Celestial Machinations,
and the overall theme was of clouds and ether. So I had to kind of, I had to figure out how to make that work. And I ended up doing kind of like a sci-fi heist type deal. And I had a blast doing it. And I ended up collaborating with the artist James Coffin. And if you get a chance, check out his Instagram, The Art of Jim. He is freaking phenomenal. He's a super great guy, and he knows what he's doing. Yeah, I really enjoyed the process. And then Mark Capitelli was our editor. I'd never really been like edited before. Just like these guys, like with the exception, Christian is a writer. He teaches people how to write. James is an artist. He teaches people how to art. I am a jackass, and all I've done is teach people how to be a better jackass. But so
that's an important skill.
Yeah.
How many mediocre jackasses are out there?
Tell you what, man, you don't put your half. You can't half-ass anything. You got to put your whole ass into it. And so anyway, like I having somebody actually think critically about what I was writing, and go like, no, this isn't working, or maybe let's try this. It was I really enjoyed it, and also it was like it was a challenge to me. I don't really have an ego about my writing anyway. I would just call myself a jackass like 20 times, but at the same time, I'm also like, fucking no, I kind of know what I'm doing. I kind of, but and then having somebody go like, maybe we could do this better if, or maybe you didn't, make this clear enough in the script, and then go like, oh, maybe, because you get all in your head when you're trying to crank this thing out, and you can easily overlook stuff. So having somebody kind of go over it with me was awesome, and I think it made me a little bit of a better writer. And yeah, and I loved the process like 100%. So I always tell people when they join the jam, if they're an artist or even if they're just a writer, I'm like, if Christian like tells you to do something, listen to this guy because he knows what he's doing. And I don't really do that for anybody else. But I like not that they don't know what they're doing, but like Christian, like he's giving me some of the best advice I've gotten. Another thing is as far as advice goes, like listen to your artists.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're writing a page and if they come up with like maybe we should try it like this, listen to your artist.
Yeah,
They
they're
know
probably
what they're
right.
freaking doing.
Yeah, looking
They
at
know
like
how to lay out a
perspective
page.
and how to layouts and whatnot. Yeah, probably like 95% of the time they're probably right. Yeah, I've come to learn. That's really cool. I love hearing how heavy you guys are with the editorial process because last year I took Shelley's Bond's Filth and Grammar class.
Oh,
She
cool.
was the Vertigo editor for like Shade the Changing Man and some Sandman issues and stuff like that. For the Invincibles as well. And that gave me a total new perspective on how to format a comic and the process of going through it. And like, how do you guys work together? Do you guys go through script and then thumbnails, and then you guys kind of nail that down into pencils, inks, and through coloring? Do you guys do anything different on your bounce back? How do you guys begin your projects in that back and forth conversation?
I have I have about 40 story ideas a day and nowhere near enough time. I got 3 kids, 2 jobs, and I always joke that I could have been somebody's cash cow, some movie studio. And not because I'm like the greatest ever, but you know, all kinds of stuff they put out, right? If you locked me in a room with with a typewriter, like it's 1943, if you just kept bringing me food and drink, I would just keep handing you stuff and I'd be happy and I would die in that room completely content. I have yeah. So what'll happen is I'll get an idea and I'll write a script for it. And I never know how it's going to come. Thermoclines actually is our story in volume 3. I was washing my hands in the bathroom. And that was virtue signaling. I want you to know that I wash my hands. I was washing my hands, and all of a sudden, this line of dialogue popped into my head. And by the time I exited the bathroom, I had 6 lines, and I'd never written that way before. And it's not a normal way for me. I ran to my computer and I wrote 3 pages of just dialogue, not even he said, she said. I just let the conversation. So that's how that one happened. Our story for volume 4, however, so very often I do that. And then I'll throw it to James. I got this idea. And I'll tell him, I don't talk to him much about something when I'm writing it, which I think drives him nuts. But I can't take a chance of sometimes, or maybe I'm nervous I'm going to lose something. But then I hand him the script, and then he comes back with these things. And as far as he's concerned, very often he just hands it to me. Like, I was thinking about doing this. And he's added something stupendous. Our character, Ruiz, in our one shot that's going to be coming called River, he came up with a look for this guy that ended up changing the storyline. Because I was Casey saying, listen to your artist. He came up with this look, and I'm like, I didn't know this was him. And I created this character in my head, and this is what we're going to do. So that's generally how it works. And James and I will do a read through, like actors, and he'll take notes throughout, and he'll make a mark. These 15 panels were written by a monkey who thinks that I can have 18 elements in one panel, that kind of thing. But for volume 4, we have a story coming out called Pervadin Moon, and it's a Nazi werewolf story.
Oh, rad!
And that was a different experience for us. James called me up one day, or texted me, I can't remember. And Snow, he texted me and with an article. He said, I know a lot about World War II, and I just discovered that the Nazis had a werewolf brigade. And he said, what do you think of this? Well, I had just gotten the book Blitzed. It's in the other room. I can't remember the author's name, which is about the copious amounts of methamphetamine that the Nazis were taking. And we put our heads together and actually on WhatsApp banged out a concept. And he was like, I'd say this, and he'd be like, well, I was thinking more this, and how about this? And I'm like, oh, I like that, but what about this? And when I had to write it, I did something I've never done before. I went over to my phone, I opened up WhatsApp, and I'm like, well, what the fuck did we say? And so that was a very different process. But I actually think that story is a next level for James and I. James and I clicked. James and I clicked. We share a brain. We see things the same way, except when he sees things better, which is awesome. And I love that. But this story, it was his concept, and we both just threw ourselves into it. And how about this? How about this? And the story came from that, and that was really cool. It was a different process. It was a real Casey. Listen to your partner, there were things in there that I tweaked that he wanted. There were things in there that he tweaked that I wanted. And by the time I wrote the script, I had this whole thing. It was really cool.
That's dope. That's really great. Like, James, when you approach a story and a new, you're kind of doing a new genre, a new type of just story in general, are you going for different artistic styles each time? Are you like doing different challenges, or do you kind of have a set framework on how you approach and have your style made already?
Well, I definitely, I think you can see similarities in my work no matter what I do. That just always comes out. But I get into different kicks a lot. A lot of my style and ideas come from outside, definitely, and a lot of it actually happens in my head beforehand. Like I kind of think out ideas and I'll gather things mentally, and then also I pull from things that I've seen. I actually saw, I don't know, Christian got the book first, or there was a documentary made on that book, Blitzed.
Oh, wow.
And I had seen that, and I like the ideas of that. It was something that I didn't know as much about. I'm a amateur historian. I really like, reading all kind of historical stuff and even historical fiction and so forth. But I like to gather a lot of folders full of stuff. Whenever I see anything, I'll click it and grab it and stick it into folders. And I also will look at other renditions, how other people might have done it. For that Herberton Moon story, I was actually looking a lot at old Nazi propaganda posters and so forth, just to get an idea of what the theme was. One of the things that's always fascinated me about Nazis' rule in Germany was how far they were able to get, and what they were able to convince people was, the solution to people's problems, right? To take it to that extreme and get people to follow along, it's amazing to me. It's just absolutely fascinating. So I looked at a lot of that stuff not for direct reference, but just to get some of that feel in there. And I don't strive to make it. I think the style kind of more arrives rather than something that I'm trying to push. Although I might have some ideas about what I want to practice, like for thermoclines, I wanted to practice a lot of like black, that sort of Marvel black shadow stuff that, the sort of a lot of silhouettes and everything in there. I was never that good at it. And then the transfer from the blacks to the cross hatching in, they make it look so seamless. And mine always looked like I was just blacking out parts of my drawings. So I really wanted to work on that for thermocline. So that's kind of one of the things that I practice for that, because it all takes place in this like dark factory and there's not a lot of lighting. There's just like, I always pictured like that, those old incandescent hanging sort of factory lights that wouldn't give that good a light. So all this like overhead lighting and a little bit of lighting from the factory windows and stuff. So I wanted to get those dark shadows in there. And that's something that I really just practiced a lot. And I also practiced it in my other artwork that I'm doing. Like I'll practice the ideas in a single illustration and then try to apply them into the story. But I don't really try to go back and say, oh well, this isn't my style, because I just I do whatever I think the story needs. And like I said, a lot of it also comes in my head. I kind of picture things, particularly with Christian. Honestly, not to float, not to brag about us, but Christian's writing has inspired me like no one else ever has. Like he'll write stuff and things will just pop into my head almost immediately, and I know that that's something that really captured me, because because it's right there. And sometimes it's a little difficult to get it out on paper, but it's right there in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And that's never happened really for me working with anyone else. And like I said, doing all that corporate boring stuff, and oh yeah, now we want you. I can't tell you how many times someone said, oh yeah, we want you to do the Pixar style. Oh,
I
okay, the
bet.
Pixar style. Yeah, okay. That's a really original thing. So let's just make it look like every Pixar movie out there, and that just makes me want to stick my hands around their throat and strangle them to death.
Dude, yeah. And you clearly have taste, because like before the show, I saw that Frazetta painting in the background, and I love Conan and I love Frazetta, so it's just like I have some of the books with the Frazetta paintings on them, and you clearly are influenced by some cool shit. So going directly to that, probably not the most exciting thing in the world for you,
I've always been a serious fan of Conan. I love the Howard stuff. I'm actually rereading that right now. There's one book out that someone basically, I guess you call it, restored all the original. They actually took a lot of his stuff and sort of embossed it or embellished it a bit to make it longer, essentially to put it out in pulp and so forth. But I have on my ebooks basically just his original words as he put out. I've been reading that. Robert Jordan, who's a big I love Jordan's fantasy books. He did a couple of I don't know if he did two, but he definitely did one Conan called the Conan Chronicles. That's one of my favorites. I love the character.
Yeah,
and
hell yeah.
Of course, no one did it better than Frazetta. I'm no good with the titles and the names and so forth, but that was my very favorite Conan, my most favorite Conan painting ever. And I really respected Frazetta, because he would sit up and he would do these amazing images in like one night. He would just do them in one sitting. Like, it's kind of the opposite of what I do. I'm very technical. Like I'm iterative, right? So I'll do one version, I'll do another version on top, and another version. And by version 4, I'm kind of happy with what shows up. He just like kind of attacked the canvas with his paint overnight and just had it done the next day. You can actually see it if you get in real close. Some of it's actually kind of loose and almost undone, but all in one. There's no other man, woman, or other who has ever captured motion and aggression and feeling in a single image. It's like you can't even take a picture. Like, you take a photograph. Like, it's amazing. It's always blown me away ever since I was a little kid.
I had heard a cool quote from him just saying like he didn't use references, because if he used references, then where does the imagination go? So apparently that was all just coming from a stream of consciousness. I don't know how true that might have been.
I call BS, man. You had to have some references for that cheesecake ass that he keeps painting, man.
That's true too. Yeah, straight up.
Man, like some kind of cheese booty. He was all about it.
Yes, all of them. Every image of women. Like,
well, Casey, how do you know that just isn't what was in his head all the time?
Just like, yeah. Frazetta was an ass man for sure.
For sure, 100%. Yeah. Best observation.
My daughter the other day brought up a painting that she really liked called The Executioner, and I was like, Frazetta? And my wife immediately, her idea was Frank Frazetta, and she only knows Frazetta because like I've brought him up and like, oh, this guy was rad. That's what my wife thought of first, and then we're going down the road and my wife's showing her pictures on the phone, and she's like, no. And then it turns out it was the Execution of Lady Grey, which was like a 1700s painting or something. It was really, really dynamic, really, really cool. But it's funny that both my wife and I immediately thought Frank Frazetta.
That's a beautiful
dude
moment.
He was on point.
The Execution of Lady Jane Grey is beautiful. I actually was not familiar with that. Wow.
Plus, his range is so wild too. Like, I mean, he had a stint with comics, and it was Western comics, totally different from all the other stuff that he had done.
Oh yeah.
Did like Well, for one, are you guys like a Michael Moorcock fan by any chance? Since you guys are into some of that like sci-fi and fantasy aspects from that era.
I've
I'm
never
aware.
read.
Okay,
I don't know him like I should at all.
I'm always curious because I'm a big Michael Moorcock fan, and I don't really find too many people who have read like Elric and gone in, like he wrote lyrics for like Blue Oyster Cult and all this type of other
Yeah,
stuff.
and
But
Hawkwind. So
and Hawkwind, yeah.
my friend Andy, Andrew Sumner, has a podcast where he has done extensive interviews with Moorcock.
Oh wow,
And it's
that's rad.
fascinating. Moorcock is he's just an old British dude that he sounds like a sweet old man, and he's like, I was off of smack for about a week, and then and it's like, oh my God. And he's talking about, hanging out with Lemmy and
Yeah,
all kinds of crazy shit. And he's just a sweet old British dude who has lived a fucking life.
and he chills in Austin, Texas, just
God.
fucking living there still.
It's wild.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was just curious about that.
I didn't know
'cause,
you
like,
were. Yeah, I didn't know you were talking about. So I heard Hawkwind, and I really perked up. I'm a huge,
Hawkwind, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
huge Motorhead fan. I think Lemmy is.
oh,
He's definitely my mentor.
yeah, God.
People don't. A lot of people don't understand Motorhead like literally. So some people can't understand the lyrics and stuff. But I think it's really an acquired taste of a metalhead. You got to be a metalhead from the start to really understand what Motorhead's all about. And
Dude, fuck yeah.
it might not be the most technical, amazing band in the world, but just the essence altogether. I mean, they're just pure rock and roll. And they lived their well, Lemmy lived his whole life like that, even through the Hawkwind days and stuff.
Yeah. I've read his autobiography. I'm a bassist myself, so Lemmy was.
Oh, are you? Me too.
Fucking, oh yeah. There you go. Yeah. It's funny. A lot of musicians turn comic book creators. I feel like it's kind of the easy way through because it's kind of like going on tour, but not with the whole band, you know.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes things a little bit easier sometimes, and relationships last longer.
Absolutely.
I was just never. Oh, sorry. I was just never good enough. The height of my music career was a cover band for Judas Priest.
Oh, that's sick. That's fucking. I grew up
Oh,
on.
really?
It was a lot of fun, but we never made it out of bars.
Yeah,
What was the
there
name
you
of the band?
Heroes End.
Oh, that's rad. Yeah. Now you got to make a comic out of it. That's essentially that's the next step at that point. That's awesome. I love hearing like where a lot of like mindsets come from when approaching drawing, especially. We were just talking to David Lujan on how he chooses color palettes and how he's broken that down because when you're choosing color, that's just it's so huge, it's so ginormous, and he's kind of broken it down to where he'll have a small color palette of about 3 colors and kind of just narrow it and keep it to that. How do you approach color? Because that's something I'm very interested in general.
That is very tough. I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make is Photoshop allows you to literally pick out of millions and millions of colors. Like it's basically infinite. You can choose anything. I always tell my students, and I try myself to think about that not only, of course, color schemes and so forth, but also limiting your palette. Photoshop which is what I use. If you go into the palettes, you can choose a particular palette. One I find the most interesting one is they have like a Renaissance palette. So they basically recreated all the egg pigments that people had back in the day, and it puts it up. But when you have that unlimited ability to choose all those colors and so forth, it actually can be overwhelming. You can kind of lose your way. So it is a good idea to kind of start with a limited palette. The way I go about colors, it's the most difficult one for me, and the most time consuming for me. Other people, it's more innate. That's something I really got to think about. And like I said, the reason why I usually do digital is because I screw it up all the time. I tend to oversaturate things. And then I really like, it was funny, one of my instructors, when I got my master's degree in illustration, he always said, your line work is so complicated and detailed. He's like, just stay away from the bright colors and stuff to keep your palette muted and simple. And of course, I don't listen to what he says. And then, other people have since said that to me as well. Oh, well, since your line work's so complicated, you should really not be working so much in your palette. So I tend to always overdo it, and then hate myself afterwards, especially when you're painting something. You know, you go through all the work with the line work, and then you're like, oh man, you screw up the colors, and you got to start over again. I also I like to use undercolors a lot. You know, I think you see that a lot in the tutorials. Laying down colors across the whole page can really help, and then keeping your opacity low, so you're kind of adding on and not just blocking in big thick colors. A lot of immature artists will do that. They'll sort of splash real heavy color, thick colors on top. Particularly digitally, it's a good idea to kind of keep that depth in there.
Oh wow, yeah, that's true.
And not overdo it. If an artist is actually my first job as colorist, other than doing my own stuff, I actually did one of Mark Capitelli's our senior editor. He did a story for Containment Breach 3, and I got to color it. So that was the first time that I've actually colored someone else's work. That was really interesting and kind of opened my mind up to a very different way of looking at things. Because when I do art, when I do colors, it kind of just blends into my line art. So I'll go over and I'll color, and then I'll do the line art over again if the colors get overwhelmed. But this one, I had to work with someone else. I couldn't just like redo the artist's. What was his name? Christian. I'm so terrible with names.
So the artist is Jimmy Gangs.
Yeah.
Mark Capitelli wrote the story. Tom Beavis lettered it. And Jimmy did a beautiful job bringing this thing to life. And then, but the comic process is so cool. Watching James color was really intense to watch this happen on somebody else's story.
Yeah, it was kind of a lot more freeing as well. Mm-hmm. I'm a very I'm so detail oriented. I think that's why I kind of want my colors take longer, because as I'm in there coloring, I'll find a line that I don't like, and I'll go back and change that line, and then I'm kind of constantly revising it. Whereas with doing somebody else's work, I was just like, fuck it, someone else's work. I'm not going to change it. Yeah, I changed a couple of things that where the shadows didn't quite click with the sort of lighting scheme that I wanted, but it was very, very minor. So for the most part, it allowed me to really think about colors and not so much about be the constant critic of the line art, because it wasn't mine. So I was just like, fuck it, it's not mine. I don't need to fix that, Mm-hmm. And that was kind of eye opening too, and it was a lot of fun doing somebody else's colors.
That's awesome. That seems like a big reoccurring theme with all three of you at this point, is kind of taking someone else's work and working with it and challenging yourself. And it seems that all of you are trying to grow in the same direction artistically, but you guys are always kind of looking at a different challenge. I mean, giving each other insane prompts to contribute to an anthology, that's a homework assignment. You guys are professors for sure, you know what I mean? But that's one of the best ways to really make you uncomfortable and make you do something that you didn't know you can do. And until you do that, you're never going to know, because you're too fucking scared to do it on your own, probably. So, mm-hmm. Giving that push and giving these indie creators another outlet and that push as well, because we all kind of get, a lot of indie creators, we're working on our own. We don't have editors. We don't have a lot of these cool things that you guys do offer, or, bigger companies offer. So we get trapped in our heads. So we get trapped and just in the same cycle of stories. All my stories are punk rock love stories. That's the fucking theme of through all my shit. But that's because I need to kind of expand and get those prompts going again. And I think that's a big thing to consider, is that when you're creating a comic or creating anything, is to kind of do what you want to do, of course, but shake it up a little bit. Find a prompt, use that as a challenge. And I think some people have looked at prompts from other friends and other creators I've talked to. Sometimes they'll look as a prompt as oh, well, I just, I want to use my imagination, and I just want to create from my own, so it's organic and it's just from me. And they forget that a prompt, it is organic and it is just from mm-hmm. you. And just because, it didn't start from a lyric you heard from one of your favorite songs, that's typically what generates a lot of our ideas is music or a TV show that we spin off of. That prompt is that another example of that you should probably be leaning more into, because it's probably a bit more original and organic as well.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of creative limitations. creative. I can't think of the exact phrase, but it's what attracted me so much to what Casey does with the comic jam. If you can write, if someone said, write me a story, chances are you're going to write some really generic shit.
Yeah.
Because you're going to think story. I got two characters. Let's put them in a. It's a heist story about a bank and a couple. Okay, I saw movies like that. I like that right off the top of your head. But the minute someone gives you a creative limitation, say, okay, write me a story. Jonathan. I'm going to drop a name just because I was honored to have him teach me. In grad school, Jonathan Franzen, who wrote the corrections and whatnot, famous novelist, was one of my professors, and he really pissed me off. He assigned the first short story was to write a story that took place on a boat, and that was it. And I was pissed. I was like, don't tell me. I want to write whatever I want. A total brash asshole. And so me and my buddy Mike Flanagan, who's in volume 4, got together drinking at a bar in Manhattan and came up with the idea that it would end up with somebody in a gravy boat. And he was going to get knocked out and punched and his ass would land in the gravy boat on the table, right? And Franzen pulled me aside later. He says, I like what you did. It's clever. I also see that you were really resisting the prompt. Why? And we talked about it. And he says, see, this is the thing, is that you're always going to write the same stuff. He said, have you ever written a story before about a girl bringing her boyfriend home for dinner? And I said, no, because that's what I had written. He says, you don't usually write that kind of stuff. I said, no. He said, but you needed to get the gravy boat in to fuck me, right? And I said, yes. He's like, well, that's what these creative limitations do. And this week's theme at the jam is Tiger in the Mail. I mean, what the fuck does that mean? And I actually wrote this one faster than I've written a number of the others because I got an image in my head. It is nothing like anything I would have written. And this is one of the things I love about what Casey does.
Fuck, I have an idea right when you said that. I need to fucking jump a comic jam. God damn it. Yeah.
It's due Thursday. Brandon, it's due Thursday. Get it in.
Yeah. Message me. I'll send you a link to the Discord. But it's when people, of course, we have people just do like the obvious idea. And it happens. And sometimes those are great. Mm-hmm. But then we also get people that push back on it. And they go, fuck this, I'm going to make this work. Or I'm going to go with this prompt in the least obvious way possible. And when people do that, that's when those creative juices get flowing. That's when people really, really just kind of start digging. Yeah. And it's really fun. So seeing those wheels spin, seeing people, and also, it gives the artists something like, oh shit, okay, this is what we're doing. Because I don't pair the artists, like we don't have like teams set every time. I pair them just to I go, okay, this artist needs to be in this story. This artist needs to be on this story. I do it more or less kind of random. But sometimes I'm like, I like seeing what this artist is doing in this area. Let's throw them off a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great, as a teacher approach as well. You're putting people in teams and partners to make them create a project and turn it in and show the class. And that's all kind of connected to what you guys all do. I really admire that. That's fucking brilliant.
I love it, man. And these artists, I was talking to somebody on the boards earlier today, and I had to tell them, not every time that you turn in a script is it going to get paired. Mm-hmm. Luckily lately I've been able to pair everybody almost every time, and that's great. I feel like I've had a good week if I can do that. I purposely do not put in my scripts every time just to make sure that those scripts are paired for everyone else. But I told the writer, I was like, our artists, they are all the time drawing, they're all the time sketching, all the time trying new things. They're like bodybuilders at the gym. I was like, if you don't get your script paired, you're at least working out, you're working those muscles, you're trying new things, and you're not sitting on your phone doom scrolling, you're trying to do something new. And that is the point of the jam. We're a workshop. We're here to broaden our horizons, to push each other, and also not just to push each other, but to kind of, you know, see each other like succeed.
Mhm.
And it's as much a workshop as it is a like a I hate the term, but what is it, like, you know, kind of making connections and stuff like that. It sounds
Yeah.
gross.
Networking.
And yeah, networking. It sounds, I don't
Corporate
like that term. It's,
interaction.
yeah, it's gross. It sounds businessy, but we're networking with people who have similar goals and similar ideas. And also, like, I purposefully kind of make it so we don't have any assholes in the group. So you can kind of be guaranteed that, with the exception of myself, you can be guaranteed that you're not going to run into somebody's like, that's fucking stupid, or
Nice,
like
yeah,
what, or
yeah.
you know, be inappropriate with, you know, somebody else in the group or something. Like, yeah, if we have like a sexist or a homophobe or a racist or something, they're fucking out. I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
get the fuck out. You're not welcome here. All those are the people that want to come in and have a good time and learn and push each other. Fucking bring it. Let's do this shit.
That's dope. We got to talk a little bit to kind of get Comics Jam promoted with Apollo. I just took note of that, and I'm gonna say it
love
out
it,
loud
man.
so we don't forget. But yeah, we'll talk. We gotta talk about after the show after this. But you know, so kind of like rounding out the episode here. Tell me about the tiers that are involved on this, because I know that there's a really interesting one about a not safe for work tier. But I really want to know, just so the audience knows, what can they be expecting from the Kickstarter?
So every we don't make kids comics, Fugitive Poems, James and I, my brain, I actually have an idea for a kid series based on something my son said once, and I really want to do it, but I'm terrified. Like, can I write without profanity and nudity and sex? I don't know that I can, because I love all those things.
I realized the same thing. Like, I did Teenage Babylon real fast. I'm so sorry, but like I wrote a sex scene in a 4-page story, and then there's another sex scene in like the ash can. And then issue 1, I'm just like, oh fuck, there's another sex scene in this. I don't know how I didn't mean to do this. It just happens, you know what I mean? It just fucking
Great. Why not talk about it, right? I mean, and this Perverted Moon that we've got in volume 4. I mean, there is wholesale Nazi slaughtering going on. These are like entrails. These are I've had James do things to the human body that no one has ever done before.
I was going to say, Christian forgot the whole violence. The sex and violence and gunshots. What was the thing? The Yonkers Comic Con. What was that line that I said precluded?
No guns, no guns, no violence, no blood. And James highlights it for me and said, "We're out."
This is just not possible. Like Christian said, pretty much every episode, every story that we've done, I've taken a human head apart in a different way. And it's gotten to the point where I've actually had to chastise Christian. I was like, well, you know, next issue, I'm not taking a head apart. You know, we got to figure out something else to do.
I'm taking heads apart. Brandon, we've kept you too long. The facade has dropped.
Dude, yeah, my cat. I was waiting for it. And you guys may not know my cat, or you guys haven't seen social media too much. But every episode, my cat fucks up something. No matter how hard
I see him intentionally fucking with you. So he was off your left shoulder, laying on the bed. He's like giving the camera the side eye, and then he came on and like sticking his ass in the camera.
Dude, yeah, it's a reoccurring theme. T'Challa just like knows how to fuck with shit, and I was like, I'm gonna see how long this lasts. It's my first night testing it. Bam, almost to the end of the episode.
Is his name Apollo?
His name is T'Challa. I actually found him. He adopted me technically because we had to save his life because he kept on popping up. But I walked into my apartment with this stray cat, and I, look on Google to be like, what the fuck do I do? I have a stray cat, like step 1. But then I got the notification that Chadwick Boseman had just passed away, and he passed away on Jack Kirby's birthday. And that was just a weird coincidence too, in general. So I was like, this is a fucking sign. I gotta name this cat T'Challa. Like that's 100%.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I wish he was a badass, but he's just a douche. But whatever. I have a cat now.
It's sort of cats, right?
Yeah, he's an alley cat, so who knows? Yeah, what's in there?
I interviewed the Milk and Cheese creator a few years ago for Spoiler Country, and his cat. He had a rescue cat,
There's sometimes that just happens, dude, and or sometimes T'Challa will just take up half the camera, and you guys will be talking to him and not me for a bit, like.
Yeah, he seems like a cool cat.
But my bad, yeah, go on.
But so we tell everyone this is an 17 plus R-rated anthology.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want. And across the board, 4 volumes now. We are the dark, awful, violent, dirty soul of the book. So this time, James, we have a couple of reward tiers, which I'll let James tell you about, which are his original production art. Beautiful, really, really cool stuff. But we're talking actually not pretty much looks exactly like this one night. And he's going through the pictures he has, and we have, I don't know how we've done it. Every story has had full frontal nudity. Male and female full frontal nudity. And there is this full page sex scene, just one splash, and that's the right term, image. And we don't, it's not porny stuff at all, please know that, but it's a sex scene. And he had the pencil and the ink of it, and I'm like, somebody is going to want that. I guess we're doing our first ever not safe for work. See, now this is James can do this, and again, I'm going to let him talk to this. If it were me, I hold on to all my I can't draw, but I draw to write comics. I'll often draw it out. Actually, Jack Van Tomey just did this week for me. This was my drawing. If you go to the Comic Jam this week, look the Broken Glass theme. Jack Van Tomey did a real version of this, but to write it, I had to draw it.
I do the same thing. I try to make sure my paneling kind of makes sense, and that way when I describe it, I could kind of just write it out like that. Plus, it keeps you from overloading a lot of your panels. And if I can't do a shitty little sketch with some of that detail in it, I'm not going to really ask my artist to do that. So
but James figured out how to call me on that. Every now and again, he'll be like, "Hey, Christian, do me a favor. Could you draw that page? I'm not quite sure what you're thinking." And invariably, I come back and I'm like, "I cut 2 frames out and half the dialogue. I'm sorry." I know that's why he asked me to do it. He's like, "You try it, motherfucker. You see what you want on that page." But he does it so politely. Would you mind drawing that out?
Hey, Christian, no joking aside, you're getting better. That's your best work yet.
I'm actually pretty proud of that one. The girl at the door.
Seriously, you're getting better. Yeah.
But so James has this beautiful not safe for work.
Casey's got a dip.
No,
I have a kid thing I have to handle.
Yeah, no worries.
All right,
Dude,
good to see
we'll
you,
promote
Casey.
your stuff. We'll get some Bigfoot Nose Karate stuff up there as well.
Awesome.
And we'll talk about Comic Jam. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, guys. Y'all take it easy.
You too.
Thanks. That's actually also a good segue. I just got Casey's interview up on our YouTube channel. So we've been trying to promote our YouTube channel. So we have Casey talking about a lot of his own work. When we every time we do a book, Christian gets together and does these things that we call 3-minute meets. Although Christian is one of these type of guys, so he'll talk for 45 minutes. That's his 45-minute 3-minute meets. So we've been putting those up there on our YouTube channel. We got through enough subscribers to be able to get our own handle on YouTube. So if you check out youtube.com/fugitive poems, or just look us up, you can see interviews with a lot of the artists, except for the ones that were camera shy on Containment Breach 2. And now we're putting up a new series, and Casey just happened to be the last one that I put up for the YouTube channel.
Oh, I can't wait to check that out. Yeah, definitely. And we'll connect on our YouTube channels as well, too, because I know that little support goes pretty far. Yeah.
Yeah.
Building YouTube, all social media is fucking brutal. But I mean, YouTube is a different beast from everything else, too.
YouTube is it's a lot more difficult than I would have thought. People are kind of, I guess they're kind of stingy with their subscribe.
Yeah. Yeah.
You talk to people, I'll subscribe. Then your numbers don't go up. So we've been trying to push this for like a year. We've only gone up like 10 viewers. So it's we're definitely looking to expand that out, because once we get a little more positive force there, we're gonna start putting other kind of content up there. We want to do we've learned a whole lot with the Containment Breach, including our own artwork and so forth.
Nice.
Going back to our other our other conversation, you learn so much more by putting yourself out there with others.
Mm-hmm.
I say this on every interview you're on. You know, if you're an artist, get together with a writer, and if you're a writer, get together with an artist, because you're going to grow so much. I see growth in myself like I haven't seen in a long time, because you really kind of stagnate. If you're in your own room doing your own thing and you say, oh, I want to do this my way, it's really it's an excuse to stagnate and kind of do the same thing you've always been doing.
Yep.
It's really good to go out there and push yourself. And some of the stuff we learned doing the containment breaches is how we're interacting and the way artists and writers and stuff are interacting with us. So we're going to try to put some of that stuff up on YouTube, sort of make it more generic about the every writer and the every artist, and sort of talk about process and stuff on there. So you can look out for that kind of stuff if we ever have time to get stuff up on YouTube after we finish our whole run of the 2 containment breaches, which will probably take up more time than we want. I keep bugging Christian to kind of write some script stuff for YouTube content. We also have been wanting to connect more directly with fans. We spend a lot of time talking to other artists and other creators and so forth, and that's great. But we really want to talk to fans. We want fans to reach out to us and tell us what they think, and follow us and develop relationships with them. I think that was one of the big things we learned at our first Comic-Con we did last year. We went to Terrificon in Connecticut, and learning how to contact and talk to people who are strictly fans, strictly out there as consumers of this stuff is very important to us as well.
Yeah, that connection and doing cons, man, I've learned just from a few, like cons is where it's at. That's the best way to network, best way to meet people, and getting your spiel down at the table takes some time, but you know what I mean? Like it does go a long way overall. Are you guys planning on doing any cons this year by any chance?
Yeah, we're signed up for Terrificon again.
Cool.
We did that last time. We had we had a good time. We can't say that we made huge amounts of money, but we kind of went in unprepared, and we also went
it's
in.
It's almost more about the networking and meeting people.
It really is.
Yeah.
But
trading a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we also kind of wanted to act like bigwigs, so we stayed in the casino. It was in a casino, so we stayed in the casino.
Oh, yeah.
We hung out. We stayed in the bars and stuff. And we ended up with like a big price tag on there. So this year we're going to do it a little more conservatively. And like you said, it is
with whiskey I'd never had. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I had some Nat Patels and some Eagle Rare whiskey. It was a great night.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like when honestly going to Baltimore and stuff like that, doing the small conventions, dude, you end up partying harder than you ever imagined. Just because you're around all these people that you don't know if you're going to see them again, and you're all just excited because you're all there with your talking about your creations, and other people are genuinely excited to hear about them, and you're kind of just making friends, and it's led to a lot of opportunities. Speaking of opportunities and whatnot, like, where do you guys get your books printed? I'm really curious about that.
We use Mixam, Mixam printing,
Nice.
and they are phenomenal. James, last time I looked it up, I can't remember where they're from now, but I
believe it's Michigan, I think.
That sounds right. They do these books are gorgeous. We go with perfect bindings. It's messed up because I only showed the one that they screwed up. But that literally was one out of 400 or 500.
That's awesome.
They're perfect bindings. Hold on. And you got the name written on it. You got the number. It stands out. You got this high quality cover that feels beautiful. And we've gotten both the matte and the gloss, and they're both fantastic. And the pages are what do we go with, 80-pound weight, James?
Yeah.
Nice.
We kind of
100 for the
didn't
cover.
really script on anything. I think we had 80-pound paper and 100-pound covers.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, if you tore this, you'd hear it. This is a hardy page here, and the colors look amazing on them. We were so Mixam was our first try. I've got to thank Jordan Patrick Finn for that. He recommended them to us, and we didn't have to go anywhere else. They've been great. They're great to talk to, and they're helpful. And yeah, big fans of Mix and Printing.
They're forgiving. They have a great squad that really will find any little problem that you have, and they will not just go ahead and push it through their printers and say, hey, well, that's what you gave us. The first book, Containment Breach 1, I had quite a few mistakes in there because I had never done a large book like that. And they just kept coming back and saying, no, you need to do this, you need to do that. And they fixed it up. We're so happy with them. Things being as they are with all the prices of everything going up, of course their prices went up as well. And I sent out for a sample for another company, which will remain nameless because I'm about to blast it. I got the samples in the mail, and it looked like like pamphlets you get, like cheap direct mail pamphlets. I threw it right in the garbage. So I've been really spoiled by Mixums. You get what you pay for. We pay a little bit on the front end, but as we said at the beginning of the interview, I'll put our books up against any of the big three. I think our printing and stuff is even sometimes superior to what I see in the comic book stores. Just amazing stuff.
Dude, that's awesome.
This is DC's Wonder Woman Volume 1 from George Perez, which, by the way, I missed this because when this came out, I was a young boy. And so obviously I wasn't going to read Wonder Woman. And that was a dumb mistake. I just read it. This is a masterclass on comic writing. It's unbelievable. Ooh. And this guy, Perez, did stuff with vertical panels, fitting in so much, but making it look smooth. There are so many vertical panels. It's unbelievable. So I recommend this highly as a writer or an artist. But this is a beautiful book. It's nicely bound. It's got a nice cover. But these are practically newsprint.
Yeah, a lot of those DC books get like that, to be honest, for sure. Where it's just they want to bring back that like feeling of when you got it on the newsstand, but when you're buying a reissue, it's just like it's not the same, dude. Like, give us a quality one versus you see these indie books, dude, where every page feels precious. And
yeah. I hold these, and I get it. I'm a comic collector from forever, and that newsprint, there is a nostalgia there. But when I buy a book, it's because I want to keep it and I want it to hold up. I'm not going to bag it. I want quality pages, and these pages that Mixum does, and us going for the 80 pounds, man, it's beautiful. This is one of my favorite drawings of James. It's Dracula's concubine.
That's dope.
So one of the other things that we have in these books are pinups.
Hell yeah.
Different things of James's work, which is unbelievable.
That is dope. That is so fucking cool.
Disgusting, wild, amazing Medusa in here too. There she is.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, this is one of those interviews. If you guys are listening to the audio, the video does a lot of justice onto what you're seeing and what like the quality of like their work and their books and dope ass Frazetta in the background. But
get your ass over to Kickstarter. You can buy them.
There you go. Any other tiers you guys want to mention and talk about?
Yeah, we actually have a good legacy tier, so you can buy. Yeah, you can buy book 1, 2, and 3 in print. And I'm cutting Christian off rudely. The last printing of Containment Breach is in Christian's hands, and most likely that'll be it. We've decided to sunset that one. Christian's holding it up to the screen there. That's actually the shiny cover. We've decided we do our second print editions gloss, and we do our first ones matte, so you can tell the difference.
That's cool.
So we're going to sunset Containment Breach 1. So most likely this Kickstarter is the last chance that you're going to be able to get that in print. And if you don't like print, or you don't like the price of print, we also have it as we have a digital tier as well. You can do all the catch up. But I should state also that you can buy any one of our books. There's no continuity over stories or anything, so it's not like you're missing out on storylines. But it's always cool to have that collection there.
Yeah.
And see what it is that we've been talking about here. You can get all that for about two more weeks, and we're also running really low on the Containment Breach 2, the first edition. We'll be printing that again, but that'll be the second edition. There's actually about 3 feet from Christian's butt is the last of what we have of the Containment Breach 2 stories. I made him count. He hates counting books, but I made him count once. We had to do some serious math, or at least for us, serious math. for to figure out the tiers and make sure that we weren't running out of those editions. So yeah, so those are some of the reward tiers, and we have the original art award tier, which is you get the production art from our story, one page of production art from Thermoclines. As I said earlier in the interview, I usually go up to inks on in my production, then I go digital. So these aren't finished panels, but they're the real working panels. And then of course there was the not safe for work one, which was I believe page 6. And that one, as Christian was saying, I use a light board. I'll do my pencils, and then some artists will go right over their blue lines. I have been using more blue lines lately, but my more traditional way of doing it is doing it in regular graphite pencil, and then putting it on a light board and then inking it. So if you get that tier, you're getting basically, I mean, it's not a photocopy, but they're going to be the same scale and everything. So it'd be a cool thing to be able to show side by side. If you're a real comics fan, you can show some of the process in there.
You got to see the look he came up with for this story. Thermoclines is a weird ass story. It's like a David Mamet comic. It takes place in one location for the most part, kind of, but it's a gritty noir, which you wouldn't expect in this book, but it's doing something else, and that's so much of that. I got to lay at the feet of James. The way I wrote it, I was really nervous about it. I kept trying to come up with these cool background images because it was really mostly two dudes talking, but there's some wild stuff happening as well. And James found it, brought it all out. What he did with the colors on this is insanity. But the art, the drawings, the images, the backgrounds, the concept, it's trippy as hell. So Casey has a story with Big Jim Coffin. He goes by James Coffin, but I don't know why. I saw his name and I wanted to add Big. So I call him Big Jim Coffin. I'm trying to get it to catch on. Great, great artist. And his is sort of a noir as well. We're the two more gritty crime stories in the book. Casey's is this really wild sci-fi heist, which Jim's style kind of feels like if Jack Kirby drew Tintin. Which is I fucking love it.
Yeah.
And Casey's writing on the story, it's complex and fun. It's this really cool heist story. It actually kind of reminds me of things like Les Samurai and Rififi, the French new wave noirs that came out. It's got that feel. And then ours is a very American style noir. And because that's one of my main influences, and but it's going somewhere weird, and it's weird from the beginning, and you can't quite put your finger on it, and so much of that was because of James. And then I had this sex scene that I drew, and I just kind of I tossed it at James. I sort of softball lobbed it. I'm not going to write too much on this page. I'm thinking one full page sex scene. And boy, all of a sudden he shows up with this image, and I was like, "Yep, that's amazing." And it's really cool. There's actually an odd connection to the cover. I don't know if anyone will notice that, but there's an odd connection to the cover of Containment Breach 3 in it. But you can get that beautiful art of his. The other thing is that we mentioned we're both professors. There's a tier where James will do a portfolio review, or a comic, 22-page, 24-page comic review for you artistically. And there's also a script review tier where I'll, and this is what I do for our contributors, is I thorough editing, all the positives, all the negatives, and really help you make it as great as you can. So we've got that as well. But I can't recommend it. Or for $1,000, we will write and draw a Fugitive Poem short starring your name, your likeness. And because it's us, we're going to kill you in a horrible, horrendous, amazing way. Or at least have you do terrible things. So for $1,000, you can start a comic. For $130, which I actually thought was $150, and I checked, we lowballed it. For $130, we'll put your face in. We'll have you like a notable extra in a panel in a future comic. But for $1,000, you will be the star. And boy, will I have fun writing a comic around you. I'm going to ask you a couple of pertinent questions, and then James is going to make it just amazing. So that's our other really cool tier.
Fuck, Dude, that's cool. That's exciting. You guys have a lot going on, and it looks like there's a lot more coming from both of you. You guys have been kicking ass, supporting indie creators and being indie creators, and just getting names out there and getting work out there. And that's the cool part: getting comics made and sent out to the world. And 160 pages of fucking sci-fi indie comic insanity. I'm so excited. I can't wait to check this out. I can't wait to check out the previous volumes. You guys can check out the links below for the Kickstarter. It has about 2 more weeks left. Their YouTube, their other social media handles. Check them out. James, Christian, guys, it's been inspiring and fucking breathtaking talking to you guys and learning about this. So thank you so much for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Casey, for introducing us.
Yes,
it's
Casey,
so good
great
to
guy.
meet you, Brandon. Casey is one of the coolest people that I have met doing this. I absolutely love Casey. And you got to check out Bigfoot Knows Karate. You got to check out Voodoo Child. He hasn't been talking about that one as much, but that's a badass story as well. It's a Vietnam fantasy. It's like Sandman meets Platoon. It's bizarre and wild, and that's Casey's brain, and I love it. And then Bigfoot Knows Karate is badass and awesome. Brandon
sells itself.
Oh yeah, right. Brandon, it's been a pleasure meeting you. This was too much fun. I think we kept you over your time.
Oh yeah, no worries. I'm glad I'm off tomorrow. It's been a great time.
Just one more thing I like to say about our Kickstarter is if you've ever been screwed by someone on Kickstarter and have it fun and then have to wait 2-3 years for your thing to come out, we don't play like that. We had Containment Breach 2 shipped a month after we funded, 2 months. We
would have been sooner, but with COVID there was a print delay from Nixon. There was a paper shortage. The book is ready. Like, we're ready. There's a bunch of these campaigns out right now where they don't make the book until it funds.
Yep.
And they've got a page up, but that page is actually the only page that's been made.
Which is actually probably makes good business sense, but we're not good business people.
We're not good, right? No, it's smart to do that.
We did the same thing. Like, the book is at the designer right now. It's done, and all I'm doing is waiting to get that final design done, and then the proof sent, and any small edits. But the book is done for our, and I feel like that's smarter because it helps build the confidence behind everyone. Because until a comic is in your hands, it's really just an idea still. Like, it's one of those things, they could falter so easily or fall apart, and that's the industry at that point sometimes.
No Kickstarter nonsense here. And plus, I don't know if we've mentioned, but we're already funded on Kickstarter, so it's happening no matter what. And there'll be no nonsense. You'll have this thing in your hand by, early summer if you choose to fund us.
Yeah, so it takes about 1.5 weeks to 2 weeks for Kickstarter to give you the money after you close your campaign. And as soon as that happens, we're going to hit print, and then we got to wait for it to arrive, and then we begin shipping. We do this fast. You're going to get it, and you're going to want to get it because we're already going to be rolling on volume 4, which is also all the stories are in for that and done and badass. And we haven't announced that theme yet, but we will.
Hyped to hear about it, hyped to promote it, and I can't wait to have you guys on the show again. And James, we got to connect. Maybe we could do a draw and shit episode at some point, and you can teach me how to draw more, so that'd be fucking great. But guys, thanks for hanging.
Thank you. It's great.
Great time. Thank you.